regular meeting with one addition. Councillor Reimer, Councillor Torgerson. Are there any further additions? Just that one, yeah.
There's this item to put under new business.
Do you want that under new business or just added to the agenda?
We could add it under new business, sure.
Added under new business. Okay, but we do that now.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Which is
The one that I handed out, okay, with respect to the memo. And I did have one other one, but Mr. Young requested that we wait until our review is in and that it will be handed in then for consideration. All right. If there's nothing further, all in favor? Carried. Adoption of the previous minutes of the May 12th, 2015 regular meeting of Council. Motion that Council adopts the minutes of the May 12th, 2015 regular meeting of Council. Councillor Salt and Councillor Torgerson. Are there any errors or omissions? Yes, Councillor Torgerson.
Just spelling, Your Worship. Under Resolution 19815, following Resolution 19815, Mayor Townsend welcomed Danielle Allen. I believe there's two N's in Danielle.
my apologies, Danielle.
Okay. And we did need somebody to take Councillor Councillor Nordley's and then Councillor Olson's place.
I did circle it in red.
For your information, Mr. Young, they were both school teachers and their eyes just used to zero in on any spelling errors. So, all right, so all in favor of adoption as amended? Carried. Delegations 4.1. We have the honor this evening of having our chair of the Fraser Fort George Regional District, Art Kane. Jim Martin, Regional District Fraser Fort George, he's the CAO. And hiding in behind is Area H Regional District Director, Fraser Fort George, Danielle Allen. Danielle spelled with two N's. And we're very happy to welcome all of you this evening. Thank you for coming. So.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors. Just a brief introduction. And since you've introduced all of us, the Chair of the Regional District, of course, Mr. Martin is the CAO, and Danielle Allen looks after and represents the area around the village of Valemount. We appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. It's always, your hospitality is outstanding, and of course your scenery and whatnot is fantastic. But I want to thank you all for finding time this evening on your busy agenda to allow us, the Regional District, to present its 2015 budget and financial plan. And Mr. Martin here will regale you on the exciting news of the Regional District's 2015 budget. I believe he promised you an hour earlier today. I don't see anybody leaving the room yet. So anyway, over to Mr. Martin, and he will provide you the overview this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kane, and I did say that he could have as long as he needs.
Thank you.
So
That's dangerous, Your Worship.
I don't think so.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having us. It's been, I think the last time we were here is 3 years ago, where we talked about the kinds of things that the Regional District does and what the presence it has in the community and the services it delivers and what we're looking to do over the next year. You'll do notice that the presentation was scheduled for May 12th, and we had to cancel from that event because we were busy dealing with evacuations and setting up alert areas because of the wildfires southwest of Prince George, but that's all under control now, so they freed me up to leave town. So tonight I'll talk a bit about the Regional District itself. I won't spend a lot of time there. I'm going to touch on property assessments and how it affects taxation in the Regional District, specific issues around taxation, the 2015 budget, taxation impacts, service costs, and then of course any questions that Council may have. So I'd like to start off with a little overview of the Regional District of Fraser Fort George itself, and on the right hand side we have a map of the Regional District. And it extends, of course, from the Alberta border to just west of Prince George in the Bednesty-Berman Lake area, and then from just south of Hickson to the Pine Pass, north of Mackenzie. So it's 52,000 square kilometers, split into 7 electoral areas and 4 member municipalities. We were incorporated in 1967, so we'll be celebrating 50 years in 2 more years. As I mentioned earlier, 704 represents the number of electoral areas and member municipalities. We have 14 board directors around our table, so that's elected officials that act on behalf of the good citizens of the regional district and making decisions and setting policy direction. Our population is just under 92,000, with the vast majority of that population based in the city of Prince George. As I mentioned earlier, 52,000 is the area that we occupy. We deliver 88 services, and that's everything from a couple streetlights in a community up to very large programs like the solid waste management program. Our operating budget this year is about $36 million. We have 60 full-time and 21 part-time seasonal employees that help us with that, and then 260 represents the number of volunteers that are part of the fire rescue services, the 13 of them that are throughout the region itself. So regional districts are federations of municipalities and electoral areas. It's a system of local government that is equal in level to villages, towns, cities, and not above and not below. We're siblings in the overall structure of governance in Canada. And we do things like providing services in rural areas, providing joint services between communities, and whether it's municipalities and unincorporated rural areas or between municipalities. We are an administrative agency for things like borrowing money. So whenever the village needs to borrow funds for any kind of capital project, it actually comes through the regional district, and we act as a co-signer to that loan. And we also act as a regional hospital district to help fund capital projects for Northern Health whenever they're putting in equipment or renovating facilities. And then we act as a political forum, so it's a unique situation where you bring elected officials from municipalities, and then from the rural areas are able to sit in one area and understand what is happening throughout the region, and hopefully make good decisions that are to the benefit of the region because of that knowledge. Whenever somebody asks me what is it that we do as a regional district, I think it's pretty simple. We ensure facilities are safe and meet the needs of our customers. We plan and implement new services. We promote programs and services. We maintain infrastructure. We ensure regulatory and compliance. We facilitate success, and we help wherever we can. So that's the fundamental business principles that we operate under. So when we talk about services we deliver, we wrap them up into 3 buckets. And the first one is region-wide service. So that's where all the municipalities and all of the electoral areas participate and receive some benefit from. And those include things like the Heritage and Culture Program, which fund our museums and art galleries, land use planning, solid waste management, 911 call answer service, regional parks, and then general administration services as well. Then the second bucket of things that we do, we call sub-regional services, and this is where it's a subset of participants. So maybe a couple municipalities in an electoral area, or maybe just the electoral areas on their own. And these are things like fire department coordination, building inspection, library funding, community grants, emergency preparedness, and bylaw services. And then the third bucket is about local services, and this is where we're right in a community serving a subset of the population or an area within the regional district. And this includes things like 16 volunteer fire rescue departments, 2 arenas, 7 community halls, 6 water sewer systems, street lighting in 9 communities, riverbank protection, and TV rebroadcasting. So it gives you an idea of the breadth of things that we do as a regional district, and we do it differently in different places. In establishing those services, so our powers, we like to think that they're borrowed from the community. So most of the things that we do, we have to go to the community and get their permission to do that. And we go through a process of making that happen. And so the first step, of course, is a community raises an idea. It might say we need a fire service, and if there is a willingness to explore that a little bit further with the community, we establish what we call a feasibility study period, where we look at how that service might be put into place, what the implications are for raising funds for that service, and then who are the participants that are going to benefit from that service. And then the next thing is we develop a bylaw for the board to consider for approval. And once the board has approved a bylaw, then we go out to the community and we put it before them, and we get their approval either through a referendum or an assent process, such as an alternate approval or a petition process. And if the community agrees and is willing, then we move through to the adoption, and that service is created. So again, board powers for the most things that we do, we're with the community, working with them, and they are giving us permission in order to deliver that service on their behalf. Another unique thing around for regional districts is our service funds. So I talked about 88 services on the first slide, and each of them are individual envelopes of service. So, or we use a file folder here to represent that. So when I say that, when we look at a municipality or we look at the provincial or federal government, when they go out and raise money, they go out and raise the money they need to deliver all of their services, and then they split up the money accordingly, and they can move money around. Because of the unique nature, where we go out and we get permission from a community for a specific service, every service stands on its own. So in this example, we've got a McBride Fire Rescue, we've got Regional Parks Program, 911, and the Yanciw Water System. And in those, the money that's raised for those services stays with those services, and nothing moves between those different elements of the service delivery model. And this slide demonstrates when we raise money for that service, we determine what the costs are. We raise it either through fees and charges and property taxes or some combination. And here, for example, the Canoe Valley Recreation Center has a particular service boundary that we raise the taxes for. So for example, people in Prince George aren't paying for the Canoe Valley Recreation Service, and much like the people in Valemount aren't paying for their arena services either. And then as far as budgets between the two services, so if we look at a couple volunteer fire departments beside each other, because of their funding envelopes being stringent and unique to each other, we can't move money between those services. So if we have one service running a deficit and another running a surplus, we cannot move the money around at all. So every service lives and dies on its own with its funding piece. And that being said, when we get to the end, and we do have services that have come to the end of the useful life, if there is money still within that budget and we collapse that service, that money is returned to the participants. So yes, it is possible to get money back from the government. So a big thing for us on how we raise money for the different services is based on property assessment. So you can imagine we have 4 member municipalities, 7 electoral areas. How do we go out and raise money? And in British Columbia, we have the BC Assessment Authority, and it's very important for us on how we collect from the different participants to understand what the impacts are in each of the communities, and it will change throughout the region. Each year, assessment rolls are released by BC Assessment Authority, and we will see changes throughout the regional district. And we might see some communities where there's been some significant growth, or maybe the market value of the homes or the commercial end of it has gone up or gone down, and that changes the assessment shifts throughout the region itself. And because of the differences of our communities, that shift is never the same in any of the jurisdictions. Now, I'll have some slides to demonstrate that a little bit later about what happened. But in 2015, so we've seen throughout our regional district, we've seen changes from -2% to up to 18%. And the average was just over 3% as far as assessment. The high growth of assessment last year was in Mackenzie, where it grew that 18%, and that was based on the community is starting to come back from the devastation it was going through with the collapse of the forest industry there. And so market value of homes has gone up, and then there's been new construction as well, so it pushed them up. And then we had one electoral area where it actually seen some devaluation in the overall assessment, and that was really mainly due to just their housing market, not a lot of movement going on, not a lot of sales, so that brought the assessment value down. Oh, this slide didn't come out very well. If you look at this and think of it as a piece of pie on the assessment that's split between the jurisdictions, what I've tried to represent here is each of the participants. And of course, we look and we see the biggest piece of pie goes to Prince George. So just over 69% of the assessment base is in the Prince George area. And then if we move from the top at 12 o'clock, that will be, I believe, Mackenzie, no, Area G, so an electoral area. I'm sorry, I can't. Area F is next, and then we move down to some of the electoral areas, and down on just below 3 o'clock, we see Valemount, McBride, and Mackenzie. So when we look at the overall assessment within the regional district, the biggest player is the city of Prince George, which would seem logical, and then everybody else splitting up a little bit pieces of it. One of our biggest contributors, Area G, a lot of utility pipeline, which contributes to the assessment base there, not very much on the residential side. When we look at something like Area E, which is right at 3 o'clock, very little on utility industrial and more residential components there. So what you can think about in this slide is for every dollar we collect on a region-wide service that everybody participates in, so something like 911 or solid waste, we're getting 69 dollars out of the city of Prince George. And Mackenzie, it's just under 4 dollars, and accordingly throughout the split there. And here's just a graphical representation of the change from assessment from 2014 to 2015. And what you'll really notice in all of that is there isn't a lot of shift. There's just been some minor shifts here and there throughout from 2014 to 2015. And if we take that same graph and we exclude Prince George, then we can look through and we can see where assessment has changed. And again, that would be a relationship to the apportionment of what we would collect from each of these jurisdictions for region-wide services that they're participating in. So through that, we see it going up and down. And next year, we could see the very opposite with any of these. So it bounces around and adjusts all the time. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a little bit of a difference for regional districts and taxation policy because of the large nature of what we are. So one of the significant differences is we don't set an overall tax rate. We set separate tax rates for each service that's put in place because we have different participants and different needs to raise money for each of those services because they're all individual pockets. So of course we determine the amount of tax required to support a service if we're taxing for it, and then we allocate the taxes between the participants, and again based on that requisition pie that we would see there. And again, just another graphical representation of the pie being split up. And so, for example, with solid waste management, if we were raising $3.5 million, then we would apportion that out to each of the participants accordingly. And if you live in a rural area, your tax notice will look something like this. So maybe you've got a $130,000 assessed home and property, and you'll make a contribution to the Province General Fund, to schools, to BC Assessment, to the police, to the hospital district, and then split out to, in this particular case, it would be Valemount TV, Valemount Fire Rescue, RD General, which would be things like solid waste and 911, and then the regional district arena, so the Canoe Valley Arena. So it gives you an idea of what a tax bill would look like. When you live within the municipalities itself, we actually have the municipalities collect the taxes on our behalf, and then they would show a separate line on there of the regional district apportionment that you're contributing towards. Much like you see police or school taxes being paid. So we don't issue a tax notice, we use the municipalities to collect on our behalf, and we use the province to also collect. So, and I think in some ways it's pretty efficient because we don't have another bureaucracy that's got a whole department that's out there being staffed and trying to collect taxes. So as far as our budget process, it starts with discussions in January and February, and we have to be finalized and have our budget adopted by the end of March. And that lines up with our member municipalities who have to have their financial plans developed by May, so they need to know what it is we are asking of them to collect on our behalf. So it lines up very neatly that way. In January, we have discussions around those large region-wide services, and those are our big budget items and how they're impacting communities. And then in February, we have discussions around the local services. And then in March, we adopt the financial plan, or we have the final budget discussions if there's still amendments or changes that the board wishes to incorporate. For the past number of years, when we develop our budget, these are the things that we think about. Our approach is on what's called a zero-based budgeting approach, so we don't just simply roll over lines. Everybody has to look at every line item, so whether it's buying postage stamps, putting fuel in, or salaries, do an analysis of that and adjust the line accordingly for what their needs are. We, the board wanted to maintain existing service levels, so we had to consider that in the budget development. We certainly have a number of regulatory and contractual obligations and requirements that we need to meet that factor into that budget. The board does have a strategic plan, so the kinds of things to meet those strategic objectives as well are considered while we're developing the budgets. Our customer service needs, both internal and external, and when I talk about internal, it's things like our IT department or our finance department that are serving the departments that push services out into the community, such as parks or environmental services or planning. And then our big thing the last couple of years is we've developed the mantra of work within. So let's try and find savings and manage and control those budgets. The trends that were being considered by the board this year, of course, our contract and regulatory requirements, negotiated salary increases, we're putting upward pressure on expenditures. So when we talk about contracts, a lot of the contracts will have natural lift phases on an annual basis. On regulatory requirements, we're seeing more and more work put on us by the provincial government on reporting out and having qualified professionals develop reports. And then on of course, the negotiated salary increases, that's much a way of a contract, and they have their lifts in there as well, and that was all factored in. The thing we looked at was the BC Consumer Price Index was 1.2% last year, and in 2013 it was at 0.9%, and the National Consumer Price Index was 2%. And at the end of the day, our target was below the BC Consumer Price Index for our overall budget numbers. So some very good work, I think, of our staff in trying to keep the spend, find the savings within as well. So as I mentioned on the first slide, our expenditures are just over 36 million, and it's a $4.1 million increase from 2014. And now you're going, whoa, hold on, you told me we're working within. That 4.1 million is actually capital projects that are on the books, and all of those capital projects are supported by grant funds and by reserve funds as well. So there's no taxation increase or implication on that. And then the requisition, which is our taxation piece, is at 17.5 million. So you'll see that out of all that we spend, 36 million, it's only about half of it, just over half, that we're using requisition for. The remainder of our funds are raised through grants and user fees in a number of different programs that we have in place. And so that represented about $160,000 increase from 2014 overall. And then other revenue sources, as I spoke to, just under $19 million. And again, fees and charges, parcel tax, reserves, surpluses, and grants. So if you can see the trend for the last 5 years, the top one is the total budget, and you'll see the jump from, it was relatively flat from 2013 to 2014. In fact, it decreased a little bit. And then the jump in 2015, and again, that represents the capital projects that are put in. If we take the capital projects out, that bar is flat. You can see our trending of requisition over the years has been relatively flat as well, as we been directed by the board to try to find other ways of raising revenues to meet our service program delivery requirements. And then this particular year as well, we had some extra surpluses generated coming from 2014 into 2015. So what this means for residential property owners, if we look at each of the jurisdictions, and this goes from the light bar is 2014 and the darker bar is 2015. And this is if you, for every $100,000 of property assessment, this is the rates that you're paying in the different communities. And I'll point out, if you look at the right-hand side and you look at McBride and Valemount, they pay a lot more than, say, somebody in Prince George, which is down quite a bit lower, or just over to the left of McBride and Valemount. And Mackenzie doesn't pay as much either. But that is about the basket of services that are delivered. So in Valemount and McBride, we have arena services, so those recreation services, and we have the volunteer fire department, things like TV rebroadcasting, and those are services that we don't deliver in Mackenzie or Prince George themselves. So a bit of difference in what we're delivering in different communities reflects on the requisition piece and what we're pulling out. And if we look around the region, and I'm changing it up here, the other one was 100,000, this is 1,000. In Mackenzie, the rate is 73 cents per thousand, or $73 per 100,000. Prince George is 60 per 100,000. Valemount is 315, and then McBride is 432 per 100,000. So again, reflective of the services that a community is receiving from the regional district. And then requisition comparison from 2014 to 2015. On the very right-hand side, we've broken out Prince George by itself. Otherwise, it dwarfs everybody. And green represents 2014. The orange is 2015. And if you see, the electoral areas all seem to blip up a little bit for this year, and that was a change in the multi-material recycling program, where we pulled it out of a region-wide budget and put it into a sub-regional service, which the municipalities participate, everybody except Prince George participates in. And the reason for the drop in Prince George is because of that shift in service as well. So they're no longer receiving it because they have a curbside service. So since they're not receiving it, they're not paying. And they consequently had a drop, and everybody else had a little bit of a lift as they took that service on themselves. I think we have already, okay. If we look around the region, Prince George itself, we asked for about $7 million from that tax base, which is a decrease of $600,000 over 2014. And again, most of that was attributed to the change in the recycling program, and also a change in us moving our PSAP 911 call to the Lower Mainland and away from the RCMP with a considerable savings. And then the average house in Prince George pays about $141 in RD taxes. In Mackenzie, we draw from them about $476,000, and that's an increase from 2014. And again, that's more reflective of, again, their growth in assessment, market value, and new assessment. So giving them a bigger piece of the pie. In McBride, just over $300,000 we're asking from that community for the services that are delivered, and it's a small decrease. And again, that would be reflective, if we go back earlier, about the shifts in assessment in communities. And then in Valemount, we're taking about $465,000, and that's a $4,000 increase. So as far as local services specifically, when we look at, and these are the ones that are delivered within a subset of this community, and we have a fire rescue service, and that overall budget is $320,000. And if we look at the contribution from the village tax base, it's just over $107,000 that we collect, and then from Area H, it's $135,000. When we look at the recreation center, it's a $480,000 requisition that we're collecting, a budget line, and about 161 coming from the village and 327 coming from the electoral area itself. Libraries, again, you'll see the trend there and the split between the village and Area H. This is one of the strengths of regional districts, especially for smaller municipalities, is that when we're able to deliver a service and move out into the rural areas where there are things like utility services, railways, we can tap into a much broader tax base, and that's really where you're seeing those larger numbers from Area H, is it's the industrial sector that's making the bigger contribution. So it really helps with being cost effective for residents. This is just a graphical representation of each of those. The budget is the left hand, and then the two right hand on each of the columns there are we're pulling from the village and then from electoral area H. When we look at sub-regional services, so these are much larger where there's a lot of participants in, but not quite everybody. And we look at planning, it's about 513,000, and just over 53,000 we collect from the village and then from Area H. Fire Services Coordinator, again, $105,000 budget line, nominal amounts from the village and from Area H, and then Community Services, again, a reflection there of what we pull from each of those bases for the overall service. So again, this really starts to talk about the economy of scale and being a whole bunch of people participating in a service. And again, just another graphical representation of where we are on budget to the village tax contribution and Area H contribution. And then region-wide, so these are the big things: solid waste, budget of $13.8 million. What I've got added a column here is local service costs, so it's costing us about $155,000 to operate the transfer station and deliver recycling services. And then the village tax contribution is just over 26, and then Area H contribution is just over 66. And you'll see the recycling program, 911, parks, regional grant and aid, and heritage conservation. And again, just a graphical representation of budget compared to contributions from the two local taxing authorities out here. So when we talk about local benefits, more specifically, we have under our regional parks program, we operate two parks here within the greater Valemount area. So we've got George Hicks Regional Park, and then we've got Cedarside. And through that, we have a partnership with the village for maintenance. So they do the maintenance work for us under contract. And then our operating costs are just over $16,000, and then the local taxation is $13,600. And regional parks falls under a region-wide program, so that's something that everybody participates in. For solid waste services, operating costs when we combine the recycling and the transfer station, about $230,000, and then local taxation is around $144,000. A very specific project that's been going on for a number of years is the Robson Valley Economic Resiliency Study, which has led on to the marketing program and some of the on-the-ground delivery initiatives around trying to market the Robson and Canoe Valleys, and this is a combined effort between McBride, Valemount, and the regional district. Our project costs for the study itself were just over $120,000, and then our funding sources were from mainly grants, and we really didn't call for any taxes or contribution from our member municipalities in order to do that, but certainly their staff time. And then that led into the marketing initiative, and so far we've spent $250,000. The regional district has contributed $108,000. I think the two villages about $10,000 each so far, and we've been able, because of the partnership, leverage grant money for the remainder of those funds. So again, really good return on investment here. So when I look at recent accomplishments, and these are local things here within this area of the regional district, we had a successful grant application for energy improvements to the Canoe Valley and Robson Valley rec centers. And that does two things for us. Of course, we're always trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then the other element is it's reducing energy costs. And we're lucky because hydro keeps increasing its rate. And we're just able to stay just ahead of that because of the savings that we're encompassing here. And if we hadn't have been successful with the grant, those budgets probably would have been pushed upwards because of the additional energy costs that we're seeing. We seen the expansion of 911 service to include most of northern British Columbia. So we have 911 call answers. So when you dial 911 here, it goes down to Vancouver. ECOM answers that call, and they transfer it if you need police, they transfer it to Prince George detachment. If you need fire, it goes to PG Fire, who dispatches all of our fire departments throughout northern British Columbia. And if it's ambulance, it goes to Kamloops to BC Ambulance. And by pulling in the other regional districts, we have an economy of scale that we've reached and a cost savings. The program, if they weren't in our partners in our program, would cost us the same, but with them in, of course, they're paying fees, so it reduces our costs towards program delivery. And again, that's that economy of scale piece. By bringing them in, they're not really busy. They keep our operators busier, but not busy enough that we need to hire more people. Also, the retention of the multi-material recycling program. So we big things within our small communities, Prince George City curbside program being delivered. The rural communities in British Columbia and the small municipalities have been abandoned by multi-material recycling BC, but the regional district made a decision to continue on with the drop depot bin system, regardless of the what MMBC is doing at this time. The Robson Valley Economic Opportunity Study, and we've got a great website. There's some branding work going on, and what I think is really successful in this is it really started to connect one end of the valley, of the Robson Valley, to the other end of the Canoe Valley. So right from Dome Creek down to Alberta, everybody's a participant, and I think it's really helped the whole corridor to identify where its strengths are and work together in becoming stronger communities. Kinder Morgan pipeline review, we partner with Valemount, so we're sharing costs on that review piece as we go through the National Energy Board's review and trying to provide our opinions and guidance on the advancement of that particular project. We could have very easily been doing it as a regional district and doing it as a village and probably doing the same thing and incurring twice the costs. Sale of yard and garden compost. I think a few weekends ago we had a sale out here. We did it at McBride. We're bringing finished compost from the operation in Prince George at the Foothills site and bringing it out into the community and allowing local residents to buy our compost and add it to their yards and gardens and amend their soils. And the soils tend to be sandy out here, so that organic matter can really help out. Our park staff also assisted the Swift Creek Watershed Society with the salmon viewing platform as well, and I think another good project. The community had some initiative on, a group of people had an idea, did all the heavy lifting, and our people were able to help out with the completion of that project. And then little thing is installation of recyclings at George Hicks Regional Park as well. As far as future projects that we're looking for in the valley, of course, the Valemount Glacier Destination Resort is big, and it's big for the village, and it's big for us as well, and we're working closely together on that as they go through their process on working with the province on getting a resort status, and then moving through our land use planning process, and then exploring the whole thing around boundary expansion as well. Something everybody should really pay attention to, and you'll start to see more of this in the next little while. If you've got things that you want to comment on around the delivery of solid waste services, so whether that's the residual management piece like at the landfills, or sorry, at the transfer station, or if it's waste reduction services, we're undertaking a review of that plan that dictates how services are being implemented. And throughout the summer, there will be a number of different ways for people to provide feedback. There will be some open houses, there will be online surveys, And there will be information on our website that you can monitor and certainly provide your opinion and thoughts on where we should go with the next 5-year plan. The other thing we're doing is a cultural services plan review, and this plan details how we support our museums and art galleries throughout the regional district. And again, if you have an interest in those services, then I suggest as we go through the planning process, and there will be opportunities for input later in the summer, and we'll use social media and we'll use the local papers to advertise that. Make sure that you're voicing your opinion. Believe it or not, we do listen to everything that our people are saying and consider their positions as we go through and finalize these documents. And the board is always interested in hearing what the concerns are in the communities. As far as capital projects, we're looking at the transfer station to do some upgrades to the tipping area there to make it a little safer and a little easier to use. And then, may not be big on a lot of people's minds, but we're doing a condenser replacement at this arena as well, just to increase the energy efficiency of the refrigeration unit, and of course the reliability of it as well. And then we're currently undertaking a review of establishing a fire training center here for the Valemount Volunteer Fire Department. And then just how do we stack up monthly? Something I always like to leave people with. So if you look at on a monthly basis for the average home in Valemount itself, it's providing about $34 to the regional district in taxes. And if we look at some of our other monthly household costs, things like heating fuel, hydro, phone, TV, and internet, these are the kinds of ranges that people are paying now. So I think we deliver very good value for the services that are provided to the community. We tend to forget about the things that when local governments are, what they are doing and providing, and at what value. So, Your Worship, that concludes my presentation, and certainly any questions or comments, the chair will be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. So, councillors, do you have any questions of the chair and Mr. Martin? Chair Kane? Councillor Torgerson?
Mr. Martin, can you give me an example, or give us an example of how you facilitate success?
Yeah, so right now we got a local one here, and it has to do with the curling club. Mm-hmm. And the curling club has had some challenges in being able to operate. And right now and I think the first meeting occurred today, we're meeting with some stakeholders from the curling club about undertaking a feasibility study about creating a local service in order to support the continuation of the operation of the curling club. Yep.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillors Blanchette or Reimer? No questions? Salt? Any questions?
Great presentation.
Yeah. Mr. Young, do you have anything? This is probably your first presentation by the regional district, and
Well, thank you. It's the first
Yes.
time I've seen this
Yes.
presentation.
Yes.
But it's not the first time I've seen the regional district presentation.
no, I meant this one.
Yeah. I have no questions, thank you.
Okay. No questions? I want to thank you very much and really say that it was good that you could make it to this meeting after the experience of the fires, the wildfires over the last several weeks. And I think the weather was just fine on the 12th, but it's even better today. So you had a beautiful day for traveling. And I want to thank you very much for coming to Valemount and for attending and for bringing all that information forward, because I could see that Valley Sentinel sitting here right in front, that she was taking notes, and I see that Mr. Peters also has had his camera trained on you and on the screen there too, and so it will give the people of the area an opportunity to watch and see the services that you provide. And I did say, I believe it was March or February or March with the budget, that the staff of the Regional District Fraser Fort George is to be commended for their wise and prudent budgeting and holding the taxpayers' interests ever up front. So thank you very much.
Good.
Okay. Is there anything further you want to add? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to receive the delegation, please. Performance, Blanchette and Reimer. Is there any further discussion of it? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. No unfinished business. Correspondence for action. There is a request to proclaim June 6, 2015 as Access Awareness Day in Valemount. And in 2000, the Village of Valemount Council adopted procedure number 1, which states the Village of Valemount no longer declares proclamations on behalf of the village. And it says here that should the Village of Valemount Council wish to proclaim June 6 as Access Awareness Day in Valemount, it will first be necessary to rescind Resolution 322 of 2000. And what is Council's wish? Yes?
I'd like to point out, though, in the letter, I fully support Access Awareness Day, absolutely. And in their letter, it does say, though, that municipalities have recognized Access Awareness Day through an annual proclamation or a letter of support. So there is the option of doing a letter of support if we wish to uphold the former resolution.
Yeah. Anybody else have any comments?
Do we know why there was this policy?
Because there are always requests for all kinds of proclamations, and the village budget could not afford to pay for ads. I don't know, there was probably a few a month, and that would mean paying for ads in the local newspapers, and just proclaiming something without putting ads in the papers and advertising it on their behalf was really, was senseless. So, anyway. But I don't see why a letter of support could not be given. And I did feel there was one comment earlier with respect to accessibility and how it affects the aspects of community life, physical, social, and economic, including employment. That should be a daily concern, not just a once a year concern. And I really agreed with that comment. So, yes.
Mr. Mayor Townsend, just picking up on that point, there has been the recent issuance of a request for proposals for an age-friendly community needs assessment.
Yes.
Which is certainly supportive of that, and picking up on that point that you mentioned, that's not just limited to seniors either, because there are other people too who experience accessibility issues.
Yes, and I think there has been a policy here in Valemount for quite some time, maybe not a written policy, but to provide access to all public buildings. Sidewalks especially were designed when the rehabilitation was down to 5th Avenue. A real point was made to ensure that all sidewalks had wheelchair accessibility. And I know that the community hall has recently remodeled, and the Legion is doing the same thing, and I know that the library has access. And so perhaps 30 years ago they weren't all there, but little by little it's being done all the time. And this should be a daily awareness, not just a once a year, as was pointed out. So could I have a seconder to Councillor Assault's motion, please?
Actually, what is the motion?
To write a letter of support.
The village send a letter of support for Access Awareness Day and year.
Yes.
Actually,
That we
And could I have a seconder, please?
Actually, a point of order, please.
Yes.
In order to deal with your motion, Councillor, we are first going to have to deal with the two that are before you on the order paper. You're going to have to defeat them first.
Oh, so then you are requesting that a motion be made to make the proclamation and then to rescind? You're asking for the motion? Can't?
Yeah, on the order paper. So yes, you'll actually have to proceed with that, defeat the recommendation, and then substitute a new one.
Okay.
We need to make a motion first to,
So to consider
to put it on the
rescinding
table first,
Resolution
yeah.
322.
Yeah, it's on the order paper. So
Yeah.
okay.
Well, does it have to be in that order, or can they just say that the council chooses to give a letter of support?
Proper parliamentary procedure would dictate that you should actually proceed with the motion, defeat the motion.
As written by staff.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so a request then. Okay, Councillor
I will
Torgerson.
make that motion in the hopes that it will be defeated.
Okay. And a seconder? Councillor Salt. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's defeated. All right. So do we have to go any further, or can we just go on with the letter of support?
You certainly can now.
Okay. So moved by Councillor Salt, seconded by Councillor Torgerson, that a letter of support be given to this association. Okay. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
6.2, Valemount Farmers Market, annual request to use green space next to the Tourist Information Centre. What is council's wish? Councillor Torgerson?
I would like to make a motion that council approves the use of the green space next to the Tourist Information Center for the 2015 Valemount Farmers Market, subject to the 3 clauses within.
Okay, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Blanchette. Are there any questions or discussion?
I'm glad to see them back.
Yes.
I can't wait.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. 6.3, Valemount Summer Kickoff Event in Central Valemount on June 5th, 2015. What is council's wish?
Your Worship,
Yes.
I need to amend this one slightly. They've also asked for 4 picnic tables, 2 to be in the Home Hardware parking lot and 2 in the Old Shop Easy parking lot.
2 in each or 4 in each?
2 in each.
Okay, what is council's wish? Councillor Salt, you vote the staff recommendations and amended to provide 4 picnic tables to each.
Well,
Okay,
again, properly we'll move the motion and then.
okay.
I move to support the proposed
Okay.
Valemount Summer Kickoff Event plan for June 5th, 2015 in Central Valemount.
Okay,
And do I do and number 2 right now?
Yes.
Okay, and approves the temporary road closure of 5th Avenue between Dogwood and Cedar Streets on June 5th between the hours of 5 p.m. and 9:30 p.m., subject to confirmation that the event organizers have insurance naming the Village of Valemount as an insured party, and provide 2 picnic tables for the 4 picnic tables.
4,
Okay.
2 each, yeah.
2 each for
Okay.
Home Hardware parking lot and Chop Easy parking lot.
Okay. Any, so that was moved by Councillors Salt and seconded by Councillor Blanchette. Is there any discussion? Councillor Torgerson.
In discussion with Superintendent Pelche, Public Works is happy to provide the barricades,
Okay.
but unfortunately at 9:30 at night, they'll require the organizers to remove them and put them in a safe location.
Okay, so that'll be specified to them, will it? Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. All right, reading file, 7.1, Auditor General for Local Government Service Plan for 2015 to 2018. Is there any action or anything that council wishes to discuss over that? Yes, Councillor Torgerson.
50 pages, so I skimmed through it.
That's fine.
They are reviewing audit themes to reflect significant changes facing local government, which is really significant. They're also, which I'm happy about, their target measures are self-assessed and they're adjusting as required. You couldn't ask for more, I think. And having the newer council guide their principles is bang on.
Thank you. Anything further?
Is anyone able to attend the swearing-in ceremony? I'll be in Prince George, but
And I think Councillor Reimer also responded that you were unable to attend.
Correct.
Councillor Torgerson?
I will not be able to.
Councillor
attend.
Salt, are you going to be able to attend?
I can attend if no one else is able to. I think it's important that
I
somebody
think
go.
if we take just one car, as many who want to go can attend. I was at budget meetings at Regional District on February the 13th and so was unable to be there on the 14th. I wasn't attending the Canada Winter Games or anything like that. I was at regional board meetings. So I feel obliged to attend this one. Okay.
Excellent.
And I think it would be good relations with them.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can go together then.
As long as council approve.
Yeah.
Some
Do
travel.
we require a resolution for the two of us to go?
You do.
All right, so Councillor Torgerson and Councillor Reimer. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll make our plans to go. Carried. Okay. And I have received a personal one, so I'll just reply to Crystal and say that we'll both be there. Thank you. Administrative reports, 8.1, proposed development variance permit, 1363 to 3rd Avenue.
Your worship.
Yes? Oh, you have to leave.
Because he's my neighbor.
Okay. I'm sure he wouldn't mistreat you if you voted no. Okay, so it's noted then that Councillor Blanchette recused herself. Okay. So we have a staff recommendation that council authorizes staff to issue development variance permit 0115 for the property located at 1363 3rd Avenue, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 7356, Caribou District Plan 10406, PID 012-705691, in order to vary the maximum floor area and height regulations in section 637 and 638 of the Village of Valemount zoning bylaw 610-2007 as amended for the proposed accessory building described in staff's report to the regular council meeting of May 12, 2015. What is council's wish? Councillor Salt and Councillor Torgerson, that council authorizes staff to issue. Okay.
That council authorizes staff to issue the
Issue the
development.
zoning, yes, okay. Yes. Councillor, anything? Oh, sorry, thought I saw you put your hand up and I thought you had a question. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Now, okay. Proposed development variance permit for 9. Oh, okay. Here she is, sorry. He's pleased to keep you as his neighbor.
Oh, good deal. I'm a nice quiet neighbor.
For now.
Proposed development variance permit for 935 Cranberry Lake Road. And development variance permit 0215 for 935 Cranberry Lake Road, staff report. The RTC 2015-0428 redevelopment permit 0215 for 935 Cranberry Lake Road, staff report. And 3 letter of support for the development variance permit 0215 from Yellowhead Realty. Staff recommendations are that council authorizes staff to issue development variance permit 0215 for the property located at 935 Cranberry Lake Road, legally described as Lot C, District Lot 7354, Caribou District Plan 18868, and parcel identification 010937838, in order to 1. Relax the surfacing of parking spaces, curbs, and off-street parking. Space requirements in Schedule B of zoning bylaw number 610-2007 as amended. To permit the use of graded, clean, washed gravel in the parking lot instead of a hard surface material, i.e. asphalt, concrete, brick, or similar pavement. 2. Reduce the number of concrete roll stops required for the restaurant parking stalls from 28 to 14. 3. Reduce the on-site parking requirement for the Rocky Inn by 5 parking stalls. And 4, rescind the parking relaxation of 7 stalls that was approved by council in 2014. Resolution 197, 2014. So may I have a motion, please? Okay, moved by Councillors Salt and Torgerson that the proposed variance permit be granted, right?
Be issued.
Or be issued. Okay. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Oh, you have a question?
I think it's a nice way to compromise and work to help make it possible for a business owner to, establish a new business and do it in a way that is still affordable, and putting a clean gravel surface is a good surface, because it does allow water to seep through and go into the ground, and as long as it's a clean gravel, it remains clean. So it's a good compromise.
Good. Councillor Torgerson?
Yeah, the clean gravel is a very aesthetically pleasing. We were there for the business walk last week, and it looks sharp.
Good. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Valemount Business Walk 2015. Recommendation that council receives the staff report concerning the Valemount Business Walk 2015 for information purposes. Blanchette and Salt. Any discussion or questions? Councillor Torgerson.
The one comment that was forwarded to me during that walk was to reestablish the commercial signage at the southern Losseth Road pullout, and perhaps the pullout near Camp Creek Pit on the south end of town. Similar to the ones just outside of Blue River and Avola, and McBride as well. They were there at once. Perhaps we could establish a partnership with RDFFG, Flynn Road, Ministry of Transportation in order to get those signages back up, because as you see in Mr. Gislimberti's report, number 3 on the greatest challenges was signage. There's not much we can do with seasonality. There's some huge staffing issues. There's perhaps foreign worker policy issues that we could be looking at. Just throwing it out there. But for haste and timelines, the commercial signage can be worked on at this level.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Blanchette?
I would just like to thank everybody who participated in this, because it really gives us a good overall view of what's going on in town and how everyone feels, and where we need to concentrate our efforts and where we're not doing so well. So I'd like to say thank you.
Yes, very good. Yes. Did you have something you wanted to add?
I did, Your Worship. It actually is a report that actually reports on failure, because the questions asked are around the challenges experienced. There wasn't an opportunity in that form to capture all the positive comments that were made. There were a lot of positive comments made as well. So it was a very encouraging process.
Good. That's good. Thank you. Okay, all in favor of receipt? Carried. Number 9, bylaws and policies. I did give a memo requesting that this be deferred, that a select committee of council be appointed to review the policies, and those that meet the needs be left in place, and those that require some amendments be amended, and that I was going to appoint a select committee. So you took the memo aside and asked that the policies be left until the organizational review is completed?
Madam Mayor, that's a separate item from this one.
Okay, all right. Well, this is still a policy, and I did have some questions about it, particularly after reading the community charter and provincial legislation. Yes.
Mayor Townsend.
You okay? No.
You actually need to read the motion.
All right, I'll read it
first.
Okay, but I did discuss it previously, and none of it was noted in the minutes this time. So policy number 64, councillor conflict of interest policy. Staff recommendation that council receives and approves policy number 64, councillor conflict of interest policy. Motion, okay, councillor Salt and councillor Blanchette. I'll let council speak first.
I support this. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think staff have done a really good job really clarifying areas of the charter, and because community charter can be construed and misunderstood based on interpretation. I've experienced it in the past, and I've had to contact the province directly when there has been a disagreement on it. So I know that when you're left with open to interpretation, that's not a good use of a wording for a policy. And this at least helped clarify, give some good baseline and guidance for this council and future councils, so I support it.
Councillor Blanchette?
I'm in favor of it too. This is for our protection, and it's well thought out. I can understand it. It's clear, it's concise, it's to the point, and it's only going to benefit who it's supposed to be protecting.
Councillor Torgerson?
It is a trending recommendation by the Auditor General of Local Government as well.
Councillor Reimer, did you have any comments?
Yeah, I had a few comments on this. So when I was reviewing this, what bothered me is that some of this went outside of policy and went to the place of rewriting what conflict of interest is. And so I went digging and searching different places and found City of Kelowna had a beautiful, short, one-page policy that that referenced correctly the community charter and the Conflict of Interest Act, which is written in the province of British Columbia for everybody that that occupies chairs such as this. The community charter in a circular is very clear that these standards apply to all municipal and regional district elected officials, and it includes elected officials from the City of Vancouver and the Islands Trust. I think those conflict of interest guidelines are clear. I can understand them. I do agree that at times there is some need for more legal clarification on a few issues, and that's either where a policy to consult with a lawyer is done, such as Kelowna has done. At what time the village does the consultation, or at what time the individual councillor has to do the consultation. So I think all of that is clear, and if the policy is short and brief and outlines how the conflict of interest is used and established, I think that's all that the Auditor General is looking for. I think the other thing that bothered me about this conflict of interest policy that was presented is that that there are a few things that actually could lead to more misunderstanding. For example, number 3 on page, I guess it's page 57, second page of this, yeah. Number 3, outside interest. A member of council shall not engage in any outside dealings, including acting as a consultant for a third party, business or undertaking that conflicts with his or her duties as a councillor. So a member of council shall not engage in any outside dealings that conflicts with his or her duties as a councillor. But if I'm a business person sitting on council, and I'm engaging in business, and somebody approaches me as a business person, I have to turn that business away, even though that has not yet been presented in any way, shape, or form to the village, but it could potentially maybe conflict with my duties as a councillor. I think that means that any business person may as well hang up their hat as far as being on a council. I think. I find that I find that part very disturbing. I think the other part is, I think it attempts to redefine what conflict of interest is rather than referring to the Conflict of Interest Act. And the other parts of this that kind of bothered me were number 9, harm to business or reputation. A member of council must refrain from engaging in conduct that could adversely affect the village's business reputation. I wondered what that was. Especially number B, engaging in criminal conduct or other conduct that could harm the village's business or reputation. I asked myself, way back when Philosophy 101 logic, if it says a member of council must refrain from engaging in criminal conduct that could harm the village's business or reputation, if it doesn't harm the village's business or reputation, do I have license to engage in criminal conduct? The senators in Ottawa are having trouble figuring that out. And now we're supposed to try to figure out when we're engaging in criminal conduct? I don't think any of us should be engaging in criminal conduct at any time, period. And so that was a question. Can I engage in criminal conduct? Is that a blessing? As long as it doesn't affect the village's business or reputation. And then under the last part, under other, I guess I had the question, a member of council who knowingly makes false, frivolous, or vexatious allegations. And I kind of thought that it could take a group of Philadelphia lawyers a long time to figure out what vexatious allegations might be, long past the time that I'm on this council. So for those reasons, I would support a very simple, keep it simple, conflict of interest policy. I love what the city of Kelowna does. If it works for them with a big council and with many staff, I think it can work just fine for here. And that's so, I would be opposed to adopting this.
Anything further? I find discrepancies in here as well, and I should like to recommend to council that it be reconsidered. There should be, some is good, some should be removed as far as I can see. I've looked at other municipalities too, and I don't see all of this in there. I believe that our council is pretty clear on what a pecuniary interest is or a non-pecuniary interest. I think we all know, and it's probably premised on common sense. And I don't know that there is anyone here that would not know if they are in a conflict of interest or not. In fact, with respect to the one conflict of interest that has, perceived conflict that has been declared by Councillor Torgerson, there's no conflict, but he's just making sure. And so there's nobody on here that's going to get themselves or the village into any kind of trouble. I should like to see this reviewed. I should like to see it deferred and reviewed and brought to more common sense, I think. That's the only term that I can think of at this point. I mean, criminal activity shouldn't even be mentioned in here. To me, that's when I read it, I thought that shouldn't be there. This is a small town. There are councillors who are engaged in business that do contracts with the village. That could be construed by some as a conflict of interest as well. And we have to consider all these issues individually and carefully and decide each on its merit, but ensure that there is no actual conflict of interest.
Your worship.
Pecuniary.
Could I
Yes.
speak to the contracts that you've just mentioned? There's a process in the community charter that
Yes.
outlines how we...
Okay, so I would like this to also follow the community charter. Yeah,
I thought it did.
not completely. Not completely, so,
Mayor Townsend, there
Yes.
is a motion that has been moved by Councillors
yes, I know,
Salt and Blanchette.
I know. And, yes, Councillor Torgerson.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Councillor Reimer?
Yes, go
Do
ahead.
you have a paper copy of that conflict of interest policy by the city of Kelowna?
Yes, I do.
Can I receive that from you at another time, or?
I'd be happy to send it to everybody.
Great.
I think if someone does a better job than this proposes, that we should seriously consider it.
If it's as clear cut and
Yes.
dry as Councillor Reimer
Yes.
suggests,
Yes,
perhaps it's best not to reinvent the wheel.
okay,
Just throwing it out there.
yeah. Okay, so Councillor Reimer, you will provide it to the other councillors?
It'll be there
Councillor
tonight.
Torgerson for sure, okay. Councillor Salt?
There's nothing saying we can't adopt this and then amend it,
That's correct.
right? So that we at least have a policy in place and then we can,
Agreed.
while we review, we can amend it then.
Okay, but are we not governed by the conflict of interest as set out in the community charter at this time anyway? Whether we need a policy or not, we are governed by the community charter conflict of interest.
This way.
We are governed by it already.
The community charter is always the foundation, Your Worship. For example, the community charter will lay out acting mayor schedules, but that doesn't mean that we don't have our own acting mayor schedule. It will lay out bylaw enforcement, but that doesn't
No, we're
mean...
talking about conflict of interest right now.
Exactly, and this
Okay.
this builds on the foundation that the community charter creates for us to govern these sorts of...
Okay, can we not defer this until we get copies of the City of Kelowna, as Councillor Reimer said he would provide to all of us? Yes.
There's only a few issues that you had issues with. Can we not just adopt this and then, like Councillor Salt said, go back and amend the things that you feel are,
So
we can discuss them and,
Yeah.
you know, then we've got a policy in place. When there's time, we can get it reviewed and go from there.
In the meantime, this governs us. And
Well, it's protecting
But
us,
it, yeah,
you know?
it's like,
And it's protecting future councillors.
and it's also something that the Auditor General of Local Government is looking for.
okay, could this not be deferred until the next council meeting?
Well, you have a motion in front of you, and you will need to call the question on the motion.
Okay, but I'm just saying, can it not be deferred for final?
Yes,
Yes, okay,
it can be amended.
understand. Okay. All right. So I am going to then call the question. Is everybody in favor of this as it is written? Okay. I guess that passes.
I'm opposed.
I'm opposed as well.
I'll stand.
And I want my negative vote recorded.
I would like mine recorded as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Councillor Reimer, I'm going to ask you to take the chair because this is the proposed site-specific text amendment, and I'm proclaiming conflict of interest. As well as Councillor Torgerson.
Yeah, I have your- So to seek council approval for first and second reading of Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 610, 2007, amendment bylaw number 740, 2015, being a bylaw to amend the text of the village's institution and cultural facilities, brackets P3, close bracket zone, in order to support the development of a single-family residence within the former church building. located at 1080 Main Street, Valemount. Do I have to read that whole thing?
Here we just, the staff recommendation.
Okay. The staff recommendation is that council gives first and second reading to the Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 610, 2007, amendment bylaw number 740, 2015, and refers Village of Valemount zoning bylaw number 610, 2007, amendment bylaw number 740, 2015 to an upcoming public hearing. Moved by Councillor Salt, seconded by Councillor Blanchette. Any discussion?
This is great. There's another family in town. Welcome them. Yeah.
Ready for the question? All in favor? Carried.
See when he gets in.
On to new business. This is the, this item here.
Okay, so that comes before, okay. All right, so under new business, I have a memo which was distributed to council. Do you want me to read the entire memo, or has everybody read it? You've all read it? Okay. And that is just with respect to the invitation to attend the annual Council of Forest Industries Convention in April in Prince George. And almost 2 months later, I'm now requesting council's approval for having attended. What is council's wish? Councillor Torgerson?
I'll make the motion that council approve your attendance there.
Okay.
Now, and with the hopes that we do establish a travel policy that is concrete as we're going through this
Reviewing,
council
that's
and
right.
for future councils.
Yes.
That we establish and amend policies.
Yeah.
That,
It outlines what is normally built into the budget
Yeah.
and then what we should ask for approval at council meetings for.
Okay.
Is that on the policy that we have now, or?
No, the
Okay.
policy we have now is strictly about the expenses and the travel and that.
Okay, so we can get that amended and,
Yeah.
I did read the policies and I didn't find the question that you raised. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Salt.
The last two council terms, this is the process that had basically ended up being adopted during the 2008 and 2011 term of former Mayor Smith, where it was decided that council would make budget provisions for the area associations and for UBCM, for Trans-Canada Yellowhead Highway Association, different associations which we have memberships and hold memberships with. And then it was any extraordinary items and invitations were always brought forward on the agenda. And if anyone wished to attend, it was then, do we have room and provision in the budget, in our travel budget? So that's how it's been happening for the last two terms. And unfortunately, there obviously was never a written
No, there isn't,
policy
because I
like
looked.
that, so.
I looked in the policies. There is nothing written, and so that's why I had suggested that we do have a policy review select committee, and it doesn't all have to be done in 1 month or 2 months or even 3 months. But as policies are reviewed and recommendations come forward, that they could be adopted, and the others can come along, as I don't expect anybody to sit through July and August reviewing policies. Let's put it that way. However, this one really took me by surprise because, as I say, the Council of Forest Industries invited me. They paid for my registration and hotel, and I did, council approved my report and travel expense, and then I was told that I couldn't claim the vehicle expense because council didn't give me approval to go. So,
We received your report, so maybe that's where the
receive the report and approve the...
No, we just received and accepted it. That's, yeah, so
Okay.
maybe that's where the confusion arose.
Well, it should have been brought up at the
Mayor,
time,
point of order,
yes.
so we need a
Yes.
seconder on the motion.
Okay,
Yeah,
Councillor Torgerson.
that's what I was,
Councillor Reimer is seconding it. Okay.
I'll second.
So then approval is granted for my personal vehicle expense claim to and from Prince George for the convention 2 months ago. All in favor? Carried. Okay. So we have agenda item for council travel expense reports. Motion then to, that the recommendation is for mayor and council to receive the travel expenses and reports from Councillor Blanchette, Torgerson, and Reimer. Salt and Blanchette. Any discussion, any questions? Councillor Salt?
Thank you. I really like receiving these reports when I'm not able to attend some of the things, so it's really nice to read and get the feedback that other councillors had from attending them.
Okay, any further comments? Discussion, hearing none, all in favor? Carried. So that receives their reports and pays their expenses, correct?
Incorrect, Your Worship. The
They've got
reports are
expenses
provided,
here.
that's correct. That's
Okay.
provided for information only, for transparency.
Does this not reimburse them?
This process in council chambers does
Okay.
not reimburse them, no.
Okay. Motion then for the next item, and this is for the, it's my page 101, and it's with respect to outstanding, Yeah.
You jumped ahead. It's
did I
council
jump ahead one?
reports.
Okay, sorry. Motion to receive council reports. I thought that was included previously. Councillors Torgerson and Blanchette.
The verbal reports.
Yes, you're verbally.
All right. Go ahead, Blanchette.
Okay, so on the 15th, we had a meeting with Minister Bond, which was great to see her again, checking in on our previous conversations, updating us on things she'd found and questions we had. On the 19th, I had a CVRC meeting. The ice is out of the rink and they're all set up for their summer games. The 21st, I had a chamber meeting and Councillor Torgerson was not there, so I'll give you a brief rundown of what we discussed. So we selected a student for the Chamber of Commerce bursary, so that's all done. We're preparing for a summer student pending we get the grant, and we're going to be sharing that student with the Legion, so the student will be upstairs working on both. We had 4 businesses that were approved for the facade program, so we're looking forward to that. We had a visit from the Robson Valley Region Marketing Coordinator, Chris Dahlbeck, as we all know. She gave a brief presentation. Now, this is the logo, so we want to start pushing it, have it in your stores, have it in your windows, have it in your shops. She's got bags, she's got all sorts of bling. So if you want to contact her, her website is discoverrvr.ca, and it's about uniting the whole valley, and we need to do that, okay? And that was it. That's all I've done.
Wow. Okay, Councillor Reimer?
I had no extracurricular activities representing council between the last council meeting and this one.
Okay. Councillor Salt?
I also was in attendance at the meeting with Minister Bond, like Councillor Blanchette said, and it is always a pleasure and an honor to be able to see her and catch up with her and see where we've come and where we can continue going from each of our different meetings. And she's always got some amazing help and information for us to keep us moving forward on some of our projects. So On the 21st, I attended phase 2 of the business walk, so that was my second time out visiting businesses. And I actually then finished it on the Friday, the morning of the 22nd. We found that afternoons isn't always the greatest time to try and catch some of the store owners or managers, so myself and Diane Fowler from the chamber went out and captured the rest of the businesses on our list, and it was a really great experience. I went into it quite apprehensive and have come out of it feeling really quite rewarded. You know, I think they really appreciated seeing us coming out. The first day we did it, we had people from other cities come as well, from Kamloops, Revelstoke, I believe, Prince George, all representing different business advisors, like the Columbia Basin Trust Business Advisor Group from Community Futures in Prince George, GTST. So it was a really great experience. And, you know, overall, when you saw how the percentages were, it really wasn't quite the gloom and doom picture that sometimes people say is out there. It was actually quite positive and rewarding, and I was quite impressed hearing some of the numbers of people that are employed by some of the businesses. It was really quite a eye-opener. So thank you to all the businesses that took 5, 10, 15 minutes out of your busy days to answer our questions. We really appreciated that input was important. This report is going to be on the website, and I believe we were going to be sending copies out to all of the businesses we attended. So thank you everybody for that. And then non-council related, but a community event. We were supposed to have the annual duck race on the 24th, but Mother Nature had different plans for the rubber duckies. The creek was way too high and fast, so it was very dangerous and unsafe to have people in it. So we're just waiting for approval from the Gaming Branch Director of Licensing for our postponement. So we're hoping to postpone the actual race, but we did hold a barbecue fundraiser and it was very well attended, and thank you everyone for supporting us. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Torgerson.
On the 15th, I had the informal meet with Minister Bond here in Valemount. During such, she requested to report out on 2 subjects: the Robson timber supply area planning, sale, negotiations, and the economic feasibility of geothermal resources in British Columbia. Those 2 are due out soon. On the 20th, McBride hosted the planning, sale, negotiations for the Robson TSA. Although I did not attend, I have received a brief overview and have reported accordingly to Minister Bond and for Councillor Reimer. More on this to follow at the June meeting, at the VCF meeting. On the 21st, I was not able to make the Chamber of Commerce meeting. Thank you, Councillor Blanchette. And later on the 21st, while I did miss the first phase of the business walk, I was teamed up with Mr. Gislimberti, and we interviewed businesses at their location, and a report was available earlier this evening. And hats off to all that participated, not only the interviewers but the interviewees. I found their answers to be a lot more honest than I was first perceived to. We've got some issues, but we also have stories of success.
Yeah.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I also met with Minister Bond on the 15th of May, and since then have been in touch with Member of Parliament Kathy McLeod's office, as well as Member of Parliament Bob Zimmer's office about having a barbecue here on either July the 1st or the 2nd, and the Valemount Community Forest manager said he's going to seek approval from his board to provide the hamburgers and drinks, etc. And we'll probably have it at the Centennial Park. I also met with Minister Bond and with one of the local forest industry owners, and there are discussions there that we will pursue with the Valemount Community Forest as well. And I met with one other forest industry leader as well as yesterday, Mr. Dunn was here, your friend from Borealis, yes. So that was an interesting discussion as well. And there have been others, but not going to bother with the details at this point.
I
Yes?
forgot something, can I?
Sure.
I wanted to put a plug in for June 15th. The seniors, we're doing a seniors abuse clinic at the seniors housing at 10 a.m. Then we're going to be having a lunch, and then we're having a dementia workshop after that from 1 to 3. And some of the staff members from the Vancouver Alzheimer's branch are coming up. So it's we don't have a lot of room, but if anybody knows anybody who should go or family members, I've contacted McBride Council. We've got one member coming down from there. So hopefully they're going to also be involved in the dementia-friendly program. So you can contact me, 566-9095, if you want to attend. It's really, really important. It's going to be a really good day, a lot of information, and we need to get the word out there. Okay? Thanks.
Thank you. Motion to receive all the verbal reports. Okay, Blanchette and Salt, all in favor? Carried. List of outstanding previous council resolutions. Staff recommendation that council accepts the list of outstanding previous council resolutions. Salt and Blanchette, any discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Carried. Calendar events, May and June 2015. No motion required and there's no questions. So we'll go on to public comments, and at this time, members of the public who wish to stand up and address Mayor and Council, please do so.
Paul Johnson, 1123 9th Avenue. Just want to say, if you're considering having a barbecue on July 1st, Canada Day, you'll be in conflict with the big production that goes on at the museum that day.
It wouldn't be in contradiction with that, because I did specify it to them.
Okay, if it's at lunchtime, the other one's at lunchtime.
Yes, I know.
It's not going to work.
No, I know. We did say that it would have to be much later in the day following what the museum sets out, and really my suggested date was July the 2nd. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to? Okay, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vicky White, 1370 58th Avenue, and I have several questions, and it goes back to your change here, your policy change, and I want to just ask, why did you need these changes to exist on this charter, for this existing charter? Why do you need those? And for not deferring it till we, the people of the village, get a chance to look it over. And why do you need so much protection? Protection from what? And what's wrong with our current charter? Why not defer it? And is it legal to change it without breaching the Conflict of Interest Act, which is federal and provincial law? And ask questions.
Okay. I think we just received comments at this time, but we'll attempt to answer, your questions will not go unanswered.
Good.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I'm Rashmi Narayan. I live at 1100 3rd Avenue. And I wanted to first think about the permission from staff and council for the summer kickoff event we're trying for the first time on June 5th, so everybody's welcome. And the other thing I wanted to comment on was about the conflict of interest policy. I personally feel like, in a way, Mayor Townsend, just with what you guys have done with deciding to be transparent and auditing the village's performance, this conflict of interest policy is in line with those values. So it doesn't have to be seen as binding. It's only about being more transparent. I think it's a good thing to be open and transparent, and then nobody has reason to question what's going on. So I think personally it's a good thing myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes?
Your Worship, Gord Peters, 30410 8th Avenue. I want to comment on the proclamation matter that was on the agenda tonight. I am in support of the village proclaiming days. I think it helps to promote community spirit, and it helps to raise awareness, and sometimes to blow our own horn, if you will, from time to time. if it's a question of expense, I think perhaps something can be worked out. I had requested a proclamation last year, and I would be happy to place the advertising myself out of my own pocket to do it. So if the expense is the only thing holding back from that, I would hope that you could reconsider that, because I do believe it does add a lot to a community to have proclaimed days and to proclaim special monuments and things that have happened in the community that we really need to celebrate. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment?
Sylvia Jungle, 1020 Main Street. First of all, just a quick question, because we were unfortunately lucky to be on holiday. Was that a different business walk than a few weeks ago done in the village? Or what did I miss? I'm sorry.
You know, we're not supposed to answer questions, but I think I'll make an exception here.
It was the same business walk. We just weren't able to connect with all of the businesses the first date of April 18th. And we just really wanted to make sure and have a greater percentage of businesses actually reached than not enough. So
because you did a great job. It was really cool that something actually came to the businesses.
Good. Thank you.
Congratulate you for that. And the second cool thing was having a TV once on a holiday and flipping through so many boring channels, all of a sudden you see the Valemount Community TV on TV. Being in Newfoundland, that was just awesome. Thank you, Gord.
He must have had trouble sleeping.
Thank you. Yes.
Richard Corrigal, 1110 Main Street. Concerning the community walk, I was fortunate enough to be offered a fair amount of time to discuss the issues of this village. And through the course of the conversation, I enlightened this here provincial group that came through. Barry was one, I think Catherine was the other, but I do stand to be corrected. And in the process, I was assured, probably 10 times, not once, so I don't need a hearing aid, but I don't think I'm that thick either, and I do believe I can tell time. And that is, I was assured that I was going to get an update in 2 weeks. We're now looking at 5 weeks, and I'm still a ghost. Or maybe I should just be called a mushroom, because I'm being kept in the dark when it comes to that report, what was supposed to be done. And so if I can't get addressed from the provincial level, maybe the start can get actually started here at this council, seeing that there is a claim of transparency and an ongoing transparency. Well, please don't give me any more lip service. Please give me some fact. And fact is, lip service doesn't work, and that is my comment. I would like to see some results from this here walkabout.
Okay. I think if, and we're not supposed to respond, but with respect to the walkabout, we did respond to Sylvia, and I'm sure that results will be forthcoming. I don't know when, but Councillor Salt.
I'll verify that they are.
Okay.
I mean, they're on our agenda. The report is actually on the agenda, which is on our website.
Okay.
So you can access the report on our website. And then as far as I recall, but we'll verify, but there was going to be further just copies provided to the business owners, whether it was digital or paper, I don't know, but I can confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
But still, there was no notification, and that's what I need you to know, that you claim transparency, and I no longer believe it, as a business person who holds more than one permit in this town.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody further? Any further public comment? Okay, hearing none. We'll just, I'll ask for a motion to receive the public comments. Blanchette and Salt, all in favor? Carried. We have a motion to proceed into an in-camera meeting. That council proceed to an in-camera council meeting for consideration of one item per section 91G of a community charter related to litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality. Salt and Torgerson, all in favor? Carried.